Hey FlossTube, it's Brandy with Every Home Needs a Gnome. It's good to see you guys today. Today is a Monday in February. It's the best I can do for you as far as dates. It's before Valentine's Day. That's all I know. I wanted to do a stitch along with you guys today, and I've got the house mostly to myself. My daughter is home. We have another snow day because in our neck of the woods, apparently we're just not prepared to deal with snow, which is weird. We live at a mountain. I don't understand it, but in our particular school district area, where our elevation is low enough that we don't usually get more than just a few days of snow. And I guess we just can't handle it. So everything kind of shuts down as far as schools go. Plus, we do have a lot of kids that live further up the mountain, and getting them to and from school is not always safe. So my daughter is in her room behind me. Go down the hall. Anyway, she's watching The Office, and she's got the dogs with her. Hopefully this will work. I have no idea. They've been kind of crazy today. They got really freaked out yesterday because we had a lot of wind last night, and it scared them. And so none of us slept very good. So that was fun. Anyway, stitch along. Let's talk about that. Or stitch with me. Stitch alongs are different. Sorry for the reflection. I can't help it. It's this is the best lighting I have in the house, and it's a terribly uncomfortable spot to sit, but I'm going to do the best I can. So I'm going to do the same. I'm going to work on the same project that I worked on last time, Winter Cometh. I have not worked on this since last time. So this is where I'm starting. And I'm going to work on the bird some more today. I was actually going to start a whole new project. I was going to start C is for Coffee from Heartstring Samplery. And I started it just to kind of have a starting point for myself. And then realized that the linen that I was using just isn't going to work so good with it. The kind of creamy white color for the steam just blends in too much, and you can't really make steam darker, otherwise it looks like smoke. So I'm gonna have to change the linen, and right now I don't have any linen to change to, so it's gonna have to wait. Threading my needle. It's always the most challenging part, isn't it? I tell ya. And you know, the older I get, the harder it is. It's so frustrating. Aging is not fun. On the other hand, it is a lot of fun. But having a body that is showing its age is not fun. Let's just say that. That's the not fun part. If you happen to watch my last video, it was with my mama, and I filmed with her because I was visiting her at the beach, and she and my stepdad were up the coast for a week. And so I went down because I wanted to interview my mom for my podcast, and which I've interviewed her before for the show, but I wanted to talk to her specifically about chronic pain, which she is a sufferer of. And so I found out that she was going to be at the coast, which is, I can either go 2.5 hours over the mountain to go visit her at her house, or I can drive 2.5 hours over the coastal range and visit her at the coast. And I thought, hey, two birds, one stone, right? I get to be at the beach, which I love, and I get to see my mom, whom I love. So it was delightful. And then I ended up getting completely snowed in at the beach. I know, right? You feel bad for me, don't you? Snow at the beach. I guess it happens. I've never personally witnessed it. So that was a new experience for me. And one I highly recommend. If you can ever get to the beach where it is snowing, that is fun. It was just so crazy to wake up in the morning and see the entire coastline covered with snow. And there were all these families out there with their kids and their dogs, and they were just having so much fun. And it was pretty great. So my husband, I probably could have made it home the day I was scheduled to drive home. Probably would have been fine. But my husband ended up taking a vacation day so that he could deal with our kids and the dogs and all of that. And he told me to stay at the beach for another night. So I said, okay, if I have to, I will. So it was good fun. And it was really delightful to see my mom. She and I did not always have the best of relationships. So you know how in my last little Stitch with Me, I talked about my dad? Today we're talking about my mom, I guess. At least for a little bit. And because so many of you guys responded so positively to her, and how can you not? I mean, really, she's a very delightful person, and I just love her to the moon and back. And you guys all picked up on how sweet and funny she is, and just what a delight. So we're going to talk about her for a little bit. And it might make her blush, which is even better. But she and I did not have a fantastic relationship for a little while during my teenage years, which I suppose that's probably not terribly uncommon for moms and daughters to have a pretty rocky time during the teenage years because of, teenage rebellion and that sort of thing. Hold on, I gotta count something here. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay. I'm good. But she and I really struggled, and it was not fun. That was not fun at all, to go through those years of just feeling so much strain between myself and my mom. And I remember it got to the point at one point we were in an argument, and I told her I didn't think I love her anymore. That was bad grammar, but you get what I'm saying. I said, Mom, I don't think I love you anymore. And I cannot imagine the heartbreak of hearing those words from your baby girl. I just can't imagine. But she turned to me and she said, I'm sorry to hear that, Brandy, because I will always love you. And that was such a gut kick. And that was such the right response. And then she went to her room and cried. Understandably. I would have probably not responded. Well, I don't know. Probably I would respond that way because I had that modeled to me. But my goodness sakes, I just can't even fathom hearing that. And of course I did still love my mom. I was just angry with her, and I felt like we were super disconnected. Well, fast forward a few years. I finally kind of got my together and went off to Bible school and kind of got some things sorted out in my own head and heart. And then I ended up getting married. And that was kind of a turning point in our relationship. After I got home from Bible school, it was really, that's when she and I really started to kind of connect again. And it was really a good and healthy time for us. And then it was after my dad died that she and I connected on an even deeper level. If you've lost a parent, you know just the kind of ripple effect that has in a whole family. And it was hard for all of us. And then from that point on, I just kind of, I got protective of my mom. She had always been my you know, such a mama bear for me, and then all of a sudden I got all the mama bear feels for her. So it's been kind of an interesting shift in our relationship where she is hands down one of my best friends, and we have such a good time together. We have fun, but we also have some really serious conversations, and talk about things that matter, which I don't know if you've picked this up or not from me, but I'm not good at talking about superficial stuff. I get really awkward when I have to make small talk, because I just want to get to know you, and I want to hear your heart and know your know what you're thinking. And you can't learn that kind of stuff when you're talking about the weather and who won the Super Bowl or whatever. So I like to talk deep, and fortunately my mom is not afraid to go deep with me, so that's a good thing. So we have some really great conversations, and she's a joy for me to be around. Now, that being said, we do get to a point where we have to have a break from each other, like absolutely anybody, because let's face it, I need a break from my husband too. And he's my very best friend, but good Lord, you can only handle so much of one person for so long. If I could, I'd take a break from myself. That's just not possible. I've tried. It doesn't work. So anyway, yeah. So I'm so tickled that you guys enjoyed her part of the video contribution, and I'm so glad that you guys liked her bags. She was so excited to hear that. I texted her the day that video went out after seeing some comments and stuff and from people, and then all of a sudden I had listed 3 of her bags and 2 of them sold like almost immediately, and I texted her and I said, well, everybody loves you, Mom. And I think that was a real thrill to her heart to just to know that she's bringing smiles to people's faces. That's a good thing, right? So, yeah. Oh, so another thing I wanted to tell you guys about is my weekend. So last week was when I was snowed in at the beach for a day, an extended day. So it threw off my entire week. And when I got home, I had so much on my to-do list. And I ran myself ragged this week and was feeling so just emotionally as well as physically depleted. It was really hard to function. And sorry, I think I messed up, but maybe I didn't. I did not. Yay! So anyway, it was, I needed the weekend so bad. On Friday, oh my goodness sakes, you guys, I almost did not make it through Friday. I actually had an interview to do for another friend who's a podcaster. He was interviewing me, which that's the first time I've been the interviewee. And I was nervous, and then all of my my sound setup just was dead. It was just dead. And had I had my wits about me earlier in the week, I probably would have learned that earlier in the week and could have fixed it. Instead, it was like 5 minutes before we were scheduled to start recording, and I realized that I didn't have a microphone that was going to work. That's not helpful when you're podcasting. So, I have no idea how it's going to sound on his end, and I feel very, very bad about it. But we recorded anyway. And it was, which by the way, if you're interested in another good podcast, I don't know when my episode's going to come out. I think it's sometime in March is when he said, but it's called Halfway There podcast, and it's he interviews people that are of the Christian faith that just have interesting stories to tell. Just go listen. If you like podcasts and you like inspiring and encouraging people, then I think that this would be a good show for you. Halfway There podcast with Eric Nevins. He is a friend, and I highly endorse him. Anyway, all that is to say, that whole fiasco almost put me down in my bed. Like, literally, I just wanted to crawl into my bed and cry. And fortunately, Eric figured it out, and we went ahead and recorded, and it was a good interview. I think. I don't know. We'll let him be the decider on that. But and then I was able to deal with the rest of my day. But I had worked so much last week that when the weekend finally came, and here we've got snow on the ground, and our son has the weekends off, and so he went over to his buddy's house and ended up getting snowed in. Our daughter was at her friend's house, and we could have picked her up, but she was happy to stay for a while and enjoy the snow with her friend. So it was just Matt and I, pretty much, at the house for 2 days. It was awesome. I feel bad saying that, but we didn't miss the kids. We just didn't. Is that wrong? I don't think so. I don't think so at all. It was this little taste of what it's going to be like to have an empty nest, which we're kind of approaching those years. Evan is 19 and looking to move out before too terribly long, and Molly is 16, so she's kind of headed that direction sooner rather than later. And I have to say, that's okay with me. I love my children. They have my heart 100%. But I also really love my husband. And it was so nice to just have a quiet weekend together. And we did a couple things that were productive. He paid some bills. We recorded an episode for the podcast. We did dishes. I mean, like little things. But mostly we sat around and we watched TV, and I stitched, and we chatted. It was so nice to just have a quiet house. I highly recommend it. Highly. So the show that we watched, goodness sakes, you guys, I did not think that I was going to want to binge watch this show. But it's on Netflix, and it's called The Good Girls. And I can't even tell you who's in it. But it's these 3 women who all need money for different reasons. And they're good reasons. They're very good reasons. But they decide that the way that they can get this money and get it quickly is to rob a grocery store. And it's 10 episodes, I think, of all these choices that kind of snowball from that one choice. And after the very first episode, I turned to Matt and I said, "This is kind of funny," because it is kind of a comedy. I said, but it's also kind of intense, and like I'm just not sure that I can deal with this, because it's kind of stressing me out to watch smart people make stupid choices, and just to continue to make stupid choices, right? Especially because there are real people in the world that do that, and I have been one of them. And anyway. So it was kind of stressing me out. And so we stopped after one episode. And then the next day, I just couldn't get it out of my mind. And I was like, you know what? Let's just watch episode 2. And so we did. And literally from there, we binge watched it yesterday, and we got like through episode 7, I think. We don't have that much further to go. It was kind of crazy. You guys, that was like 4.5 hours of TV, or 4 hours, something like that. I don't know. It was a lot of TV. And I just sat there and stitched the whole time. Well, mostly. And I don't even feel guilty for any of it. It was so nice to have a quiet and relaxing weekend. And especially because last night's sleep was very not restorative at all. Between the wind and the dogs, and then waking up to see if we were going to have school. Finding out that we were going to have a 2-hour delay, and then waking up later to find out that no, it is canceled. It was just kind of a mess. So I did not rest well last night. But, yeah. So let's talk about George Washington. What a weird transition, right? My mom, a lazy weekend, and George Washington. Somehow they all go hand in hand. Let me take a drink first. This cup, I got it from a garage sale. But it was a garage sale that my family was doing. And so it belonged to my sister-in-law's mother-in-law. I don't think that makes her anything to me except part of my family, but not a direct link. Anyway, the mug, it cheers me up because it's so bright and sunny. Look at that. It's just cheery. So, I love it. And it makes me think of Chris, the lady who owned it before, and that makes me happy too, because she is a sweetheart, and I love her. So anyway, George Washington. Let's talk about George. So, if you may recall, which some of you maybe don't know this, because you might be new to my channel, but I checked out from the library a biography on George Washington by author Ron Chernow, who is also the one who wrote the biography on Hamilton, Alexander Hamilton, that inspired Lin-Manuel Miranda to write the musical Hamilton. So I've been reading George Washington's biography. And you guys, it's 817 pages. I mentioned that before too. I have about 700 pages to go. This is an insane book. It reads, like I said, I think before, it reads a little bit more like a novel as opposed to just a dry, dull biography. And not really a novel, because there's not, I don't know, there's not like a plot line or, an antagonist. I mean, there are those things, but it's just not as dry and boring as a biography usually is, it seems. I don't know. Maybe I haven't read enough biographies. Maybe I'm just thinking history textbooks, which can be insanely dry and boring. Even though history is so rich and exquisite. This coming from the girl so my dad was a history teacher, and he loved history. My husband loves history. He's also certified to be a history teacher. And I hated history as a student. Hated it. Absolutely hated it. And then as an adult, I found a real love of history. So that's weird. It's kind of like Brussels sprouts. Though I'm pretty convinced I'm never going to like Brussels sprouts. I try them every now and again. It's just not happening, people. But But history, I have a love for. And so anyway, I'm enjoying reading this book a lot. I'm not, however, doing a great job reading it every single day. Because sometimes I get to bed and I just want to like have a brainless time to just play a game and not have to think too much. And you don't have to like think overly much through this biography, because the way that Chernow has written it, it's just not taxing on a brain. But sometimes just reading words and trying to make sense of them is taxing for me. So sometimes I just want to, play a stupid game and listen to a podcast and call it good. Oh, see, I've got to, hold on. I have to pause for a second. Because yep, there we are. Okay. It's so hard to stitch and talk sometimes. Which is weird, because you'd think, I mean, I don't know if you guys do this, but, well, darn. I just unthreaded my needle. I don't know if you guys do this, but when I'm stitching, unless I'm watching something or listening to a podcast or whatever, I'll have, like, not conversations, but, like, I'll just have a running dialogue with myself. Please tell me I'm not alone in that. I don't talk out loud to myself, usually, when I'm stitching. But I do just kind of have this little running commentary going on in my head, and thinking about life and all those things. And so you'd think that doing a Stitch With Me video would not be that much different from that. But it is. Because in my head, when I'm just stitching and talking to myself in my head, if I go off on some weird tangent, like, I don't have to explain it to myself, right? I know that I've done that. Where if I go off on a weird tangent talking on a video to you guys, if I just go with my stream of consciousness thinking, you guys would be lost, confused, probably amused, maybe a little scared. I don't know. It could go any number of ways there. So, yeah, it's hard to know for sure. So I'm really glad I'm actually stitching this piece for that reason, because it's really a very easy stitch. It's just, you've got a lot of repetitive patterns. I'll show you. Because, with the border, it's repeats. The snowflakes, there is obviously some variation in them, but it's a lot of repeats also. These letters are really simple. And then you've got the giant space of the bird, which, I have issues counting, so that's my only problem, but that's just me. But when you're only using one kind of thread, like that makes it pretty simple. Which, by the way, so last time I was stitching this, I had told you guys that I lost the thread that I was using, which is, I believe it's the Gentle Art, and it's called Peacock. I still can't find it. It is gone. I have no idea where. I think it's possible that it got lost in the couch at the dance studio. That's the only thing I can come up with, because that couch is a dark blue, and this piece, or the thread that I'm using is pretty blue, and I didn't have a lot of it left anyway, so it would have been super easy to just get lost in the cushions. So, oh well. So what I've done instead is I've gone ahead and I'm using the DMC 3808 because that complemented the peacock. And I'm just going to use it for, well, I'm using it for the bird and stuff, like I mentioned before. But I think I can't decide what I'm going to do with the rest because I still have, here, hold on. I'm about done with this piece of floss and then I'll show you what I have. Tuck in my loose end here. Good grief. This isn't the best position for me to be stitching in. Or it's not like not great lighting. But oh well. It is what it is. All right. So, oops. I put my needle in the wrong spot. Okay. So you can see, because I was going to finish up the snowflakes and the lettering with the peacock. And then I was going to do the bird, and then there's a little tree over here that I was going to do with the DMC. And that was actually the plan all along, because I didn't have enough of the peacock to do it all with. But now I'm to the point where I still have like 2 snowflakes and the rest of my lettering to do. And I don't know what to do. I think I might just end up doing it all in this DMC. What do you guys think? Do you think that would be okay? I'm a little bit worried just with the lettering. I guess I could take out what I have of these 2. Except that kind of blends in with the DMC anyway. I think that's just what I'll do. Because I honestly don't know what else to do. Because somebody, I think it was Teal Elder, had said that she looked to see if she had some of the peacock and didn't. And even if somebody did have the peacock and was willing to sell it to me or give it to me or whatever, it wouldn't be the same dye lot, you know? So I think I'll probably just stick with the DMC and call it good. Like, adapt, right? That's just what so much of stitching is. It's just having to adapt. And, you know, the girls that were doing samplers long before I was around had to adapt and had to overcome boredom and had to press on in spite of it all. So I think that's what I will do too. And on that note, I'm almost out of video space and I've got other things I need to get going and doing. So I have a big day of editing to do. I've got to edit a bunch of